Hello, everyone. How was your summer? I guess I asked that collectively. Some of you could have different quality summers than somebody had the greatest summer ever, and so it's kind of like, don't talk to me about that. I'm sorry, I could ask questions better than that. I'll do my best. So real quick, since most of the people that are in this room are new faces to me, I am going to pass a document that looks like this around. Oops, that's hard to see. So it looks like this. This is basically just kind of a seating chart. This is my best representation of the seating chart for this classroom, which is why I'm in accounting and not art. So front of the classroom is where I'm standing. I'm right over here. So if you're in the front row right here, that's going to be this row back. And the one that's at the top of the page, that's the back row back there. I'm just trying to learn names as best as possible. Something I struggle with. The good news is that if you have me in future classes, I'll have that down ironclad. Like 50% of the time, I'll know your name. So. All right, so while you all are doing that, I'm going to go ahead and do my presentation. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Dr. Barnes. I'm one of the accounting professors here at Truman State. I teach the AIS courses, which is this course, and then I also teach a graduate course. In fact, I had my graduate course a couple hours before this one on this very computer, in this very classroom, and the internet was not working. So we think we got that worked out. You want to see me frustrated, try to see me without the internet. I mean, I'm a Gen X person. You should think I'd be able to operate without the internet, but I just have gotten so acclimated to it. It's kind of hard to record via Zoom if you don't have the internet. It's hard to access Brightspace, so that's why I was getting flustered. But I think we're in good shape today. So we'll have this recording done, and we'll talk a little bit about that. I record every class session, so that's kind of why I really need to have the internet, so that Zoom will actually work and will actually be able to record for me. So we're going to be doing, I also teach the auditing courses. So those of you who are accounting majors, you get to see me again in 1 or 2 more semesters after this for the senior level course. And I also teach a graduate auditing course. I'm also going to be teaching the forensics course, which is great because I used to work in forensics. So that's another graduate level course. But yeah, for right now, that's basically all we're going to be talking about is AIS, and so accounting information systems. So let's go ahead and get into the details of this particular course before we start talking about other courses. So we're going to be meeting Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 11:30 till 12:20, and it's going to be pretty consistent throughout the semester. I know a lot of students ask me, why do you like teaching 3 days a week, Dr. Barnes, as opposed to 2? It's not so much that I like teaching 3 days a week. I would teach 1 day a week if I get away with it. But trying to take me in increments more than 50 minutes, that's a challenge. I tend to talk really, really fast and get really exuberant, and yeah, just too much energy, too much time, and plus I have to be energetic because I'm talking about accounting technology. Okay, which is one cool word preceded by one really boring word. So yeah, it can be a little bit dry at times, but we'll talk a little bit more about that as we get through. Yeah, we're going to be meeting here. I have office hours right before this class, right after this class, and then I have an auditing class from 1:30 to 2:30. So I will have office hours usually after that class, at least on Monday, Wednesdays. Also on Tuesday mornings, I will have office hours. I want to make sure that we're clear. So this is my first step to make sure that everybody knows. Just because I don't have scheduled office hours does not mean you can't contact me. You can send me an email anytime. If you want to send me an email at 3:30, I probably will not. Or 3:30 in the morning, I probably will not respond. Okay. There's a possibility I will, but not likely. But you can send me an email at any time, and if I'm available, I will reach out to you as soon as I possibly can. If I'm in my office, unless I'm in a meeting and I ask, can you come back in just a few minutes? You are welcome to come in and talk to me at any time. You can set up an appointment for some time that's not during my office hours. I try to be as available as possible I can for you. So just because it's not during one of these hours that's listed on the syllabus does not mean that I won't talk to you. So I want to make sure that we're clear on that. You're welcome to come try to contact me anytime. I'm not going to be 100% available, but I'd say 95, 96% available most of the time. So that's kind of my policy there. The course textbook is Accounting Information Systems by Vernon Richardson. So I want to talk a little bit about this textbook. It is available in the bookstores, I guess I should say, because the discount textbooks also have it. I would say that it's required that you get Connect. So I want to make sure this disclaimer. All right, we will be using exercises and activities that are developed by McGraw-Hill Education, which are technically available on Connect. I will also provide these on Brightspace. So if you're asking yourself, do I actually need to have Connect? My answer is legally, yes, you probably should, okay? Am I going to bring in the McGraw-Hill education cops to make legal enforcement necessary? The answer is no, okay? So if you don't get Connect, that's on you, not on me. I'm telling you it's required, but legally speaking, yes, technically speaking, okay? So that's going to want to make sure that we're very, very clear on that. You can actually register the Connect link. I've set up a Connect link for this course. I will not be posting anything in Connect. It's just mostly for access to the materials. And if you want to have access to the electronic textbook, that's one way you can get access to it. It is ebook access for that is $170, which I realize is a lot. I would love to make it less than that. We used to have a different textbook that cost somewhat less than this, and it was terrible. It just did not teach anything. Some of you may actually look at this textbook and say it's terrible too, but it actually is really good for what we're going to be talking about. It's actually a really good textbook. Just terrible in the fact that you hate some of the stuff, but we'll talk about that. And when we get to structure diagrams, that's usually the ones that students say, can you never ever teach this ever again? And the answer is, don't I wish, don't I wish. But some of the stuff is really interesting, especially as we get later on in the course. It is a required textbook for the course. You will need it for the homework assignments. So please make sure that you get access to that. Then access to the internet, obviously. I say that as a joke, and the fact that I did not have internet access this morning, so that made things a little bit challenging. I will have basically all the information that you need available through Brightspace, which the Brightspace course is somewhat populated already right now, which we'll take a look at that. Also, if you are unable to attend class in person, but can attend class asynchronously, I do have Zoom open for every class. Every class I have internet, that is. If class has internet, I will do that. And I record every video and I post it to my YouTube channel. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about attendance here and shortly. We'll talk about my attendance policy. One thing I do want to make sure that you're clear on is that I do not expect these to be a substitute for attendance. If you're just like, I would rather attend at home on Zoom in my pajamas, I personally would rather get paid $1 million a day and live in Tahiti. But unfortunately, that's one of those things that we don't get around. It is an option if you have no other or if you have no other answers. Like I know a lot of people are going to be attending. We have a lot of student athletes. They're going to have athletic events that interfere with this class time, and that's cool. I understand that. This is why I record the videos, is so that people have access to this information when they can't be here in person in class. If you can be here in person at all possible, I encourage you to do so. And so, I'll talk a little bit more about that shortly, but I do want to make clear that I do hope and expect that you will be here in person when you get here. That's an important aspect. All right, so everything's on Brightspace. So we got a channel link for my YouTube channel, Zoom link. Okay, we're good to know. All right, so basically, we'll talk a little bit about what the nature of this class is, but this is technology related to accounting. And I know that there are people in this classroom right now. You're not accounting majors. You don't want to do accounting for your career, and that's fine. We're going to talk about things that are not necessarily accounting related. The unfortunate news, if you're a business major and you're going to be going to a career in business, you can't get away from accounting. It's called the language of business for a reason. So there are going to be some things that we're going to talk about that are necessarily accounting related, but this is a lot more broad than just the accounting profession itself. It talks about things that are much more broad and discipline related. It is going to be focused on technology as it relates to accounting, but you're going to learn a lot of things, in particular when we start talking about the topics near the end of the semester that are much more broad in their focus, that cover a lot of different discipline areas. As far as the class format goes, we're going to start getting into a pretty regular format. I want to say we start getting into our regular format in week 4. It's a little bit dicey the first 3 weeks just because we're still getting prepared, and plus we have today's presentation, which is irregular presentation since I'm just talking about the introduction. And then we also have Labor Day coming up in a couple weeks. So the schedule's a little bit erroneous for the first 3 weeks, but we start getting into our regular groove right around week 4. Basically what that means is on Mondays, we're going to have our lectures, and that's going to be covering the top topics from the book, which I have slide set prepared for that. Then on Wednesdays, we're going to be doing what's called NetSuite, which is an ERP system that we have access to. We're going to be walking through some activities so you all can learn access to NetSuite. And then finally on Fridays, we will have our homework review at the end of class, but we also have some Excel activities. I know that everybody in the class has taken BSAD 153, so you should have pretty good Excel skills. I'm going to reinforce a lot of what you learned and then teach you a whole bunch of new stuff as well, particularly as it pertains to this course. Some of you may take or do the Excel activities and may say, I'm not learning really anything new. And that's good. If you're not learning anything new from the Excel activities, I have nothing more to teach you. But if I do teach you new things, then these will be good reinforcements for you and things that you'll learn to be able to take along with you. I do think that most people in the classroom should look about half of the stuff and say, I already knew that, Dr. Barnes. That's a good thing. That's not a bad thing if you already know it. If you don't know it, then this will be something a good learning opportunity for you. So let's talk a little bit about each of these things that you'll need to do for the course. So the very first thing I want you to note is that for my students in AIS, I do what's called the beginning of semester questionnaire. This is a quiz on Brightspace. Okay, so if you go to Brightspace, I think it's in the content tab. Let me make sure I put it up there. If I didn't, I'm going to feel really, really foolish. Did I do it again? Okay, so it's week one. It's the very first thing that you've got in week one. It's the beginning of semester questionnaire. This is a quiz. It is for a grade, but I'm not going to grade you on the accuracy responses. This is just to get to know you. I want to learn a little bit about you. I have not decided yet. In the past, what I've done is I've started out most of my classes where I talk to a student and engage with them. I probably will continue to do that just simply because it's a little bit easier for me to get to know people face to face when I talk to them. If you are totally against that, if you're like, Dr. Barnes, don't ever talk to me ever, okay, you can put that in the questionnaire. You can say, I would prefer that you not talk to me in class. Or if you have something sensitive that you don't want to talk about, but you're going to share with me, please let me know. But basically, this questionnaire is just information to get to know about you. It's your name, it's where you're from, what your major is, what your plans are for the future, and then something fun about yourself. Don't share something fun about yourself that you don't want anybody to know. It's like, well, I'm secretly wanted for a crime in Panama. Like, don't tell me that, okay, if that's the case. Just only share things that you'd want to be shared. I don't record any of that, by the way. I do this at the beginning of class before I start recording. The only people who know about it is in the classroom. But again, that's entirely optional. If you just really, really don't want me to talk to you, that's fine too. It's just mostly just to get to have a rapport with people in the class. So that's maybe our first one. This is our substantive interaction assignment for the course. All right. This is basically the thing that you need to complete in order to prove that you're enrolled in this course and actively participating. So a few years ago, Truman State took on the policy that anybody who's enrolled in a course has to show that they're active in the course in order for them to stay enrolled in it, because we didn't want to be charging people for courses they weren't taking. And so if we get to Friday and you have not completed the beginning of semester questionnaire or the quiz, I will reach out to you and say, hey, are you in the class? And you'll say, oh yeah, sorry, Dr. Barnes, look at that on that. Or if I say, are you in the class and are you doing it? And you don't respond to me, I'll basically reach out to you one last time on Monday and say, are you sure? And then you get dropped from the course, okay? I know that sounds doom and gloom and tragic, but this is actually a good thing. We don't want people being charged for things they're not doing. That's actually a good policy for treatment. So make sure you complete this. It's obviously a good thing to complete for my sake, but it's just a little bit of a mechanism to get to know. It is a free 5 points. That's basically all I have to do to it. And the good news is there's no wrong answers. There's no wrong answers to this particular. Well, I guess technically if you tell me your name is one thing and your name is actually something else, that would be a wrong answer. So technically, yes, there is wrong answers, but I won't grade you on wrong answers. Let's put it that way. All right. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about how the course is structured. So like I said, on Mondays, most Mondays, this coming Wednesday will be our first of these, but I will have a lecture on a topic area. And basically, I'm only going to spend one day on that topic because I do think that it's very high-level discussion, and the more valid insights will be the application of that information. But I do need to introduce you to some information. So we'll have our lecture. And then once we do that, a few days later, usually it'll be about 4 days later, because usually it'll be on Monday. And then on Friday, you'll have homework that you will submit to response to that. I will say I really like the content and the material of the textbook. This is one of the better textbooks that I've ever taught out of. The homework is lacking, okay? I will say the homework assignments, I'm not particularly fond of the problems they do the homework. Some of them are really challenging. I've tried to pick out the ones that are really, that are at least reasonably good. It's taken some time. Even then, some of the homework questions are kind of like, really? You ask me that? They could be better homework questions, but the content itself is really good. So I do think the homework is important. It's a good reinforcement tool. If you know anything about learning, usually learning takes place in 3 phases. You have to learn it. You have to be exposed to it 3 times to actually reinforce it. So the lecture is the first one. You actually completing the homework is the second one. And then on Friday, after you submitted your homework, we will discuss it. We will talk about what the answers are. I do not have a policy of accuracy-based completion for homework assignments. This is your first exposure to the topic materials. I do not expect you to be expert at the first time. So I would like you to try to answer the questions correctly, but If you get a question wrong, you do not get counted off for it. All I ask for is completion of the homework assignments. Okay. Now I want you to read. Don't want you to read too much into. I don't want you to read into this or try to get sly with it. This does not mean that I say, okay, homework problems 1 through 9. I don't want you to go A. That's defeating the purpose. You do need to learn the material. That's whole part of the exploration of the content. I don't want you to feel stressed out if you get something wrong. I want you to take this as it's supposed to be. You're supposed to be learning the content. You're supposed to be exposing yourself to the content, and we're doing this over a process. So I would like you to try your best, and I do have a GTRA who will be looking to make sure you try your best. And my GTRA he's actually going to be going into forensics in the very near future. So he's very, very sly if you try to get things past him. So if you do A, he's probably going to notice, okay? He's going to see the patterns to that. So if you are going to do that, at least do some random walk assignments, so like A, C, D, B, C, A. Try to do something to get a disguise it at least. Now, he may notice also if your answers are wrong. I did have one student back when I taught 221 who figured out that my GTRA was just looking for numbers. This was not a forensics GTRA. This was a different GTRA. Was just looking at numbers. And so she just started writing random numbers on her assignment. And I looked at her assignment one time. And I said, what is this? This doesn't make any sense. So there is some scrutiny of the assignment. There is some scrutiny of your responses. And if you are just kind of phoning it in, we will check. But again, it's not particularly meant to be difficult. It's meant to be a reinforcement opportunity. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Occasionally, I will assign some questions for discussion in class. This is very, very rare. This is not for a grade. This is just mostly I want you to think about something so we can come back and talk about it at a later date. If I do that, I do expect you to complete it. I am really, really light on Socratic method in this class. Has anybody heard that term Socratic method before? So that's basically a teaching method where I say, hey, you, okay? Hey, you. I don't do that very often in this class. I will answer questions if you want to volunteer questions, but I don't call people out simply because I realize that that's something that makes people insecure. I'm trying to back off on that in most of my classes and get more volunteer responses. That we've had some instructors in the past who are very, very big on use of Socratic method, so I'm trying to do a better job. I encourage you to ask questions, but I'm probably going to try not to single you out in a situation. But in that particular situation of discussion, then I may ask for responses and I may call for people at random, just simply because I do have to facilitate the discussion. But this is very, very few and far between if that happens. All right, NetSuite. So as I said, we've got access to the Oracle ERP system, which is online. It's called NetSuite. I have to admit, I dropped the ball this summer. I had a calendar notice saying, okay, make sure you submit your NetSuite submissions. And this is like July 20th. And for some reason, I missed it. So I realized about 1 week before the beginning of the semester that I'd forgotten to actually request accounts. Usually it's a 30-day waiting period to get the accounts. So as I wanted to start this much earlier on, and we're going to start in week 4, which is good in some ways because that's when I started it in previous semesters, but bad because it kind of threw off my plans, which I guess that's good news because we're going to do something fun next week. So, there's trade-offs there. But NetSuite's a kind of interesting system. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be walking through processes of how we actually do accounting transactions within an actual information system. And some things are going to seem very, very similar. Like you think about your 220 and 221 courses, you're going to see the alignment between those journal entries that you used to make and how we actually put them into a system. Some of it's going to seem very, very unique. You're not going to have experienced it before. By the end of the semester, you're not going to be an expert in NetSuite. It's not going to come out and just say, okay, I feel like I could process any transaction given to me right now. Some of you may feel more knowledgeable than just what I intend to teach you, but that exposure is invaluable. We actually have employers out there who heard about NetSuite. In fact, I'm thinking of one in specific who may talk to us this semester. But he heard that we were teaching NetSuite in the classroom. He was like saying, we have a great demand for people who have experience with Oracle systems. So even though you may think, I don't really know what I'm doing, you're going to be so far ahead of people who have not got exposure to this information. It's going to be very, very valuable. And what we're going to be doing isn't going to be that difficult. On Wednesdays, I'll sit you down, we'll sign in a NetSuite, and I'll say, all right, let's go ahead and do this step, and then we'll talk about why we're taking this step, what it is we're doing. They're going to be very simple transactions. We're going to buy something from a vendor. We're going to sell something to a customer. But we're going to walk through in a system and see how the system treats those transactions and why we have to actually have this system set up in a certain way. Some of the thoughts will be very, very simple. We're going to have one class period where I think you do, after you sign in, you will need to mouse click like three total times to finish the activity. I counted this out one class period. I was just curious, how many mouse clicks did you have to have? And, again, you say, well, why are we spending our time doing this, Dr. Barnes? The question is not what it is we're doing in there, but can you understand why it is we do things in a certain way? And again, it's not going to be complex. There's a lot more utility to NetSuite than we're going to learn. This is going to be the barest bones exposure. And like I said, still having this exposure will put you very far ahead of your peers from other institutions who do not have this. So I think it's a very valuable activity. In the past, AIS instructors, they've done this outside of class. I found much better results doing this in class and walking through this activity. I do think that this is a very, very important step so that we can ask questions, we can interact, and we can talk about how what we're doing in the ERP system matches what we're talking about in the classroom. So that's why we actually take 7 days out of our semester to actually work on this. I say like every Wednesday, but 7 class periods are, it's only 7 class sessions, so it's basically half of our Wednesday class sessions. We'll be doing this, but it should be interesting. We will have one. Most of the assignments, the way that will work is that I will walk you through an activity, and I will say, all right, by the time you complete this activity, you should have this document prepared. Make a PDF of this document and submit it to Brightspace, and that's your submission for the assignment. There will be one activity where you'll have to do everything on your own, where you'll have to do the assignment on your own. So that will come up actually right before the first exam. It's not actually difficult. We'll start out, I'll sign in the class, and then I'll give you the assignment, and you'll probably take you like 10, 15 minutes and you'll be done. I will say the NetSuite classes, they tend to go a little bit shorter than other classes. I may flesh those out a little bit with some other discussion as well. But I do think that this process is something that you'll find useful to see how counting and technology intersect in this regard. As with everything, if you miss a NetSuite class session, you will need to make up the assignment on your own. So you have to walk through the activity and do the submission. The good news is that because I record all this, because this is going to be on YouTube, it's not really all that hard. Since it's a web-based browser, you don't even need to be in this classroom to do it. You can actually be at home and you can log in NetSuite at home. So if you're on Zoom or if you are doing this on your own outside of class, either one is fine. For the most part, most of these assignments, you should have them complete by the time the class period is done. That's the expectation. All right. Talk about Excel yet? I think I skipped through Excel. Okay, so not sure where Excel is. So I do want to talk about Excel. I'm sure it's in the syllabus somewhere. I'm just not sure where. So as I mentioned, on the beginning of Fridays, we're going to have what I call Excel Fridays, because Excel Fridays are the best Fridays. Let's be honest right there. Those days that we don't have Excel on Friday, they'll be a little bit less great Fridays than other Fridays. But we're going to be walking through some Excel activities. Like I said, some of the early ones will be pretty remedial. You'll say, we learned this in 153, and that's fine, okay? This is a reinforcement. I do want to clarify for the Excel assignments, my policy is a little bit different on these. These are not assignments per se, so much as they are just activities that we work through together. There is no deliverable on any of these. You don't have to submit anything to Brightspace. All I want you to do is work along with me and see if you can actually grasp the information I talk about. I would encourage you to save what you do, the work that you do in Excel, because I will test you on it. And I do want to clarify this. This is something that's come up in the past, and it gets a little bit, some students get a little bit grouchy about it. Anything that I do on an Excel assignment is viable for an exam question. What that means is if I give you a formula on Excel and I say, I expect you to know the components of this formula, then you need to know that for the exam. Which I realize is unfair because you say, well, Dr. Barnes, if I had Excel, Excel would tell me. I said, yes, I know, but I think this is an important enough formula that you should know the components on your own. And I will reinforce that during our Excel assignments, but I do want you to know if it comes up on an exam and I say, okay, what does this part of the formula mean? I don't want you to be completely stunted that I didn't realize that I'd have to know that. I'm telling you right now, you have to know that. That's probably the most onerous part of the Excel activities is that I do actually have some reinforcement that I expect on that. Otherwise, they're going to be pretty interesting. Some of it, like I said, will be remedial, but I'll present it in ways that you may not have looked at. All right. One assignment that I do for all of my undergraduate classes is called professional interactions. So I was terrible when I was an undergraduate about developing my professional networks. I was in Beta Alpha Psi, but I kind of went to the meetings and that was it. I didn't do any professional development. I didn't interview. I didn't actually look for internships. I was really, really poor about it. And plus, when I graduated, my undergraduate degree was 2002. There was something else that happened in 2002. There was actually several things that happened in 2002 related to accounting. Does anybody know what those are? this thing called Enron. Okay, has anybody heard about Enron before? If you haven't heard about Enron, go look it up online right now. Okay, but yeah, Enron's collapse occurred in 2002, as did Anderson's collapse right after that. So public accounting was not hiring at the time, and I did not have a professional network to speak of. So you know what I did for a year? I worked in a donut shop. Okay, then I got my graduate degree. So all's well that ends well, but it was not a good idea. Anyway, that taught me a very valuable lesson in that developing a professional network so that you have opportunities is really important. This is not going to give you a perfect professional network. I would encourage you to work on that on your own, but this is my way to encourage you to get out there and develop your professional network. So you're going to have some opportunities this semester to listen to presentations or to meet people and interact with individuals that you would not normally have if you were just sitting in the classroom. And so one of these you're going to have to sit through and you're going to have to listen and you're going to develop a presentation, or you're going to listen to the presentation and do a write-up on it. The write-up is really, really simple. It's 2 paragraphs, okay? 1 paragraph about what the presentation was about, 1 paragraph about what you learned. And then you submit that and you earn 10 points for the assignment. Very, very easy. It's just me forcing you to get out of this classroom and go to another place in the university to meet people who aren't at the university. We will have an executive in residence. I don't know what the date is, but the executive in residence is coming up, and I will update you on that. We also have some other speakers that are going to be outside of executive residence. There's actually quite a few this semester. There's a whole bunch of opportunities. If you're in Beta Alpha Psi or Delta Sigma Pi or a similar professional fraternity, any of those speakers that you meet in those situations, those are viable as well. Some people ask me, is Meet the Firms an opportunity? And the answer is no, okay? Because I'm actually going to give Meet the Firms and the Career Expo as extra credit, which I'll talk about here a little bit. But if you want to go to the session right before Meet the Firms, which is basically going to be, some of the firms are going to talk to Beta Alpha Psi the night before. If you want to go to that and doing that, that's absolutely fine, okay? You can do that one as well. There are a lot of opportunities for this, and like I said, I would encourage you to do multiples of those over the course of your career, not just this one that I'm assigning you, all right? And by the way, I will also tell you that you're probably some of your other instructors will start doing this as well. This is something you might want to plan as well, because some of the instructors are going to say 2 or 3 of these, but you can double dip on these. You can say, well, I can get Dr. Barnes and Dr. Otero's right out of the way at the same time, okay? Which that's great, because Dr. Otero is far more demanding than I am. Yeah, you can tell her I said that too. All right, so these are going to be due on November 22nd, which is like right before the Thanksgiving break. All right, exams. I will say I tried to do 3 exams previously in this course, or sorry, 4 exams previous in this course. It really became a problem in the fact that I've got another undergraduate course that also has 4 exams, and I did not figure out a good way to segment that course into fewer exams. So this one became kind of the casualty. We have 3 exams in this course, 2 midterms and a final exam. The midterm exams are enormous, okay? They are 100 points, and they're 20 multiple choice questions, usually followed by 2 quantitative problems. A lot of content that's covered in the midterm exams. That's the bad news. The good news is, first of all, historically, my students have done very well in the midterm exams. I think the first exam in the past 2 semesters has been about a 78 to 82% average in that range, okay? Which per my grading criteria, if you can average 85 on your exams, you can get an A in this class. That's just the way that my grading scale works. So pretty close to A average, or quote unquote A average on the exams, and I still expect good things moving forward. So that's good news. Bad news is there's a lot of material to cover. It is pretty varied, so you will have to cover it. I will give you some insights based on previous exam performance about areas that you should focus on. There are definitely some areas where people have struggled. Write this down right now if you're taking notes on this, okay? Put it a star. What should you study really heavily for the first exam? UML diagrams. UML diagrams. What do those mean? Those mean the bane of your existence. Students hate these, okay? I'm going to tell you right now, you're not going to like UML diagrams, but I'm going to make a note of this. If you know your UML diagrams really, really well, that is the area that people have struggled with traditionally in this particular course, okay? So I'm giving you a hint right now. That should be an area of focus for the first exam. And because you're Truman students, everybody's writing this down, says, make sure I know the UML diagrams. You're not going to like them, I'm sorry, but they're really, really important. So we'll talk about those when we get to, I think it's chapter 3, when we start talking about those. Anyway, so we're going to have 2 exams. These will be roughly split across the, first 2 will be roughly split across the halfway point and the last point semester, which I'll explain what here in just a second. So exam 1 is right before fall break. Exam 2 is right before Thanksgiving. Okay, so I shouldn't say Thanksgiving break, because basically they'll be on Monday, so we will have a review session. So there will be a little bit of time. It's not like the Friday before Thanksgiving break. I'm not a monster. All right. So yeah, we won't do that, but there will be a little bit of a time right before that. As far as the final exam goes, that is on finals week. It is comprehensive. So if you so taking the final exam is an experience. The good news is I'm a big softie at heart. So I found out during the pandemic. So we were in the spring semester of the pandemic, 2020, and I was like, man, these students have been through a lot. You know what? I'm going to make the final exam optional for those students who want to take it. And guess what happened to my evaluations? You know, I joke. Actually, my evaluations are fine, but guys, students really enjoyed that, and I found a way to actually balance that out. I said, all right, as long as I can teach and test on everything that's in the course, I think I can make the final exam optional. All right. Now, the good news is that you can opt out of the final exam if you meet my criteria. And here are all the criteria here. Full completion of all homework assignments and NetSuite submissions, which should be easy as long as you're consistent. Okay. Should not be hard. Completion of the professional interaction write-up, that's 10 points that you'll want to get anyway. 65 out of 75 points in the group presentation. I really grade presentations pretty lightly, so 65 shouldn't be that hard. Summaries of group presentations, which I'll explain here in just a second. Completion of any extra credit opportunities offers, which extra credit you want to have, and then no unexcused absences. I will tell you right now, about 9 times out of 10, people who have not had the opportunity to opt out of the final exam, this is the one that got them. Okay, so I am really a stickler for or for making sure that there's no unexcused absences. I'll talk about my policy here shortly. Bottom line, this should all be stuff that's pretty easy to get, just as long as you're consistent throughout the semester. And God willing, every single person in this classroom is going to be consistent. I was very fortunate in my AIS class last semester. I had a really strong AIS class. Every single person in the class qualified for this opt out of the final exam. I had one student who took it because she struggled on the second exam, and she said, I'd really like to get a next higher grade. And to her credit, she did. She studied really hard and got her next highest grade. Okay. But every single person in the class was able to opt out of that final exam, and only one person took it. So is this within reach? Absolutely. This is something that everybody in this classroom should be able to attain without too much trouble whatsoever. All right. If you do opt out of the final exam, I will give you a final exam grade. It will be on the average of your midterm grades. Okay. So there is an incentive to still do well on your midterm exams, which is why I'm giving you the information about to do well in the midterm exams. You may have a trouble on a midterm exam, and you may say, well, I got to take the final exam to get the next grade. And that's fine. If you run into that situation, you certainly have that option. If you have the ability to opt out of the final exam, you may sit for the final exam. I will say it's one or the other. Say, for example, you're at a really high B and say, I could do well in the final exam and get an A, and then you don't study for the final exam and end up with a C. You are unfortunately stuck with that C. It's one or the other. You don't have the option of taking it risk-free. That being said, it is still an option available to you. And I only throw that out there because I have had students who've gotten confused about that in the past. So group presentations, I will be honest, I think the group presentations have a tendency to be really good or just not valuable at all. I have had some really excellent group presentations in this course, but this is something that I think a lot of people wait until the last minute to do. I would encourage you not to wait until the last minute to work with your group on this, simply because the last minute is Thanksgiving or the week of the presentations. So if you haven't looked at the schedule, our final week is right after Thanksgiving, and our final week is when the group presentations occur. So if you wait till last minute, you're going to be working on this during Thanksgiving week, which nobody wants to do that. Well, I'm assuming nobody wants to do that. Maybe you're one of those oddballs who really likes working during Thanksgiving. If you are, no judgment, even though I just called you an oddball. All right. So basically what this entails is that you're going to select a topic in this area, and I've got a list of some topics that you might select from, and you will work together with a group. I haven't decided on the group sizes yet. I think there's 22 students in here, which means the group sizes will be around 5, maybe 5 to 6 students. 6 is about the highest that I would accept for a group. I would prefer right around 5. 4 is fine. 4 to 5 is optimal, I should say. I'll work this out. You can select people in the group. If you're in the class, you know people that you want to work with. You can go ahead and just send me a list and say, can I be in a group of these people? And if you have people that you want to identify, that's great. If, say, for example, you only have 2 other people, you don't have a full group, that's fine too. You can send me an email. If you have no preference whatsoever, I will randomly assign you to a group. That's basically what I do. So I basically allow you to select people for your group, and then anybody who's remaining, I randomly assign them to a group for the selection. After that's done, you'll select a topic, and then you'll prepare the topic. And like I said, once you've selected your topic, you probably start doing research and assigning those particularly as we get closer to the end of the semester, because you don't want to be working on this during Thanksgiving week. This should be a presentation that you're excited to do. That's why I kind of try to select some topics that are a little bit more interesting. I do think systems and organization control reporting are important, but very rarely do people get excited about SOC reports. And if you are one of those people who get excited about SOC reports, congratulations, you got a great career ahead of you, okay? But usually people are just kind of like, you know what, I want to learn about AI, or I want to learn about cybersecurity, and that's cool too, because those are interesting topics as well, which we will discuss closer to the end of the semester. But start thinking about that. Again, start forming your groups. I will remind you throughout the semester. At some point, probably around week 4, I'll say, can we start getting groups finalized? And then at some point around 8, I'll start saying, can we get topics finalized? But there's not a major crunch on that time period. By the way, a few other notes about this. Once a topic has been selected, that topic is locked. So if I have a group that says we want to do machine learning, they will be the group that does machine learning for the presentations. No other groups that do machine learning, unless you can find some derivative of machine learning that you think is value added to the one where it's already being presented. The presentations themselves are 15 to 20 minutes. We will be doing, I think we will be doing 3 days of presentations. We may not take off the full class period for all of these, depending on how many groups we have. But the presentations are worth 75 points. I do grade both on an individual and group basis based on the oral presentation rubric. I also have a guidelines that I would strongly recommend that every group or member review. It is my interpretation of the oral presentation rubric. Some of the things you should note, and this I'll reinforce this later on in the semester. Everybody in the group should speak for approximately the same length of time. I've had presentations where one person spoke for half the time and one other person, the rest of the group spoke for the rest of the half. That shouldn't fly. You should have everybody speaking for approximately the same length of time, and the presentation should come from you, not from that, okay? I'm saying the slides should support what you have, but you should limit the detail in the slides. All the information should come from you. But again, we'll get more into that as we go along. And I'm assuming most of the people who will be in this class will be opting out of the final exam. That's been the case in most situations. I do have a policy that if you are going to opt out of the final exam, you will need to prepare brief summaries of other groups' presentations. My policy for this comes from an unfortunate incident that occurred like 6 or 7 years ago, where we were doing a presentation in a different class. And basically nobody had any stake in the presentation. So they started playing on their computers and ignoring what the presenters are doing. It got me really, really caught into the collar. So the reason that I have you take notes on other presentations is so you have an investment in what they're saying, because nothing sucks worse as somebody who's being teaching now, going in my 10th year. Nothing sucks more than when you're up here talking and nobody's paying attention to what you're saying. All right. I've learned to handle that because I know that I teach some of the stuff that gets pretty boring. I teach auditing, so obviously that's the case. But I know that can be pretty boring, and I don't expect everybody to stay with me 100% of the time. But for your student peers, for the people that you go to class with and interact with in classroom, it really is a shame when people are not paying attention to what you're saying. So that's why we do the group summaries. These are not onerous. They're just really, really short, like a paragraph each of what the presentation's about, designed to invest you in their presentation rather than be an onerous task. By the time the presentations are done, you should have those presentation summaries and you can submit those to Brightspace and be done with it. That's why I do that policy in this class. Subjective assessment. In a nutshell, all this is my gauge of how you're doing in your performance in the class outside of the actual regimented grades, outside of your assignment grades, like showing up for class, paying attention. Like if I have a student in the class, by the way, I used to teach this class in 2 classrooms because I didn't like doing the lectures in this classroom because there's big black screens in front of many of your faces. So it's really, really hard to engage. I decided not to do that this time because I'm getting to the point now where I'm really old and I forget classrooms. That sounds like a joke, but I did. And so I really want to stay in the same classroom and have the same faces and the same seats that I can engage with so I can learn the names. That being said, I still expect you to engage with me. If your policy for this class is going to be, okay, when Dr. Barnes is lecturing like that, okay, that will get you noticed very, very quickly. All right. So I do expect you to engage with me in the classroom. I also expect you to show up for classes, things along those lines. That's going to be what subjective assessment is. 99% of my students get 25 out of 25 on this. It's very, very rare that I have to use students to do it. Maybe not 99 out of 100, maybe 95% of 100. That sounds more reasonable. Yeah. So most students by far get 25% or 25 points out of 25 points on this. The only way that you lose points on this is to basically go against what I'm telling you right now. All right, here's the grading, 510 points. That may be subject to change. As far as participation and attendance goes, I've already told you my policy on attendance. I do expect you to be in the classroom if all possible. That being said, if you cannot be in class, email me. You don't need to tell me the reason. You can just tell me, Dr. Barnes, I will not be in class. This goes if you will not be in class at all, if you're just going to not be able to attend, whether in person or via Zoom, or if you are on Zoom. If you decide that you're going to attend via Zoom, you still have to email me. If you're not going to be physically present in class, you have to contact me and let me know, right? I will forgive many, many things if you communicate with me. This includes late assignments, okay? This includes participation in class or being present in class. Communication is really, really important to me. What did I just say? It's really good, okay. So that basically means that as long as you communicate with me, things are good. If you stop communicating with me, that's when things go south. All right, so make sure you show up to class, make sure that you participate in class. If you can't be present in class, make sure you let me know. If you're going to miss for any reason, that's fine. I just want to know in advance. As far as my policy for attendance, I've not had to interact this in the past couple of years, but I did have a problem with a student several years ago. It was actually a student sitting right over there, not in your seat, so you're in good shape. All right, student sitting right over there in the second seat. This student basically realized that they'd missed like the first 2 weeks of class and didn't let me know, so they'd already lost several points for a subjective assessment. They were at 0 for subjective assessment, so well, he can't penalize me anymore, and stopped showing up for many, many other classes after that. It was a fiasco. So I will say that if you lose all the points of subjective assessment, then I can start altering your grade by letter grades after that. That is my policy. Do not put me in that position. Okay, I'm begging you. I do not like giving bad grades in any way, shape, or form. I had to give a bad grade to a student, an online student this semester, and basically the student petitioned me afterwards. I said, "This is not something I enjoy doing. I don't enjoy giving D's and F's to students. That's not something that I enjoy. I would rather give A's to every single student in the classroom, but you have to earn that. And the easiest way to get a 4 grade is to stop communicating and stop showing up for class." Okay, that's all there is. So please make sure that you are conscientious about this policy and you know what you're supposed to do. Academic integrity, pretty straightforward. You can work together with other people in the class. I wholeheartedly encourage you to do so, but make sure that if you're working together, you are working together, not copying from one student who knows everything. Okay, there are some very, very smart students in this class. All of you are very, very bright. You get a lot of information, but please don't do that. Learn the material on your own. On artificial intelligence, the AI policy. So this is something relatively new. I encourage you to use AI. In fact, we're going to have a class session on AI next week, which should be fun. We're going to learn a little bit about the uses of AI. If you can find ways to supplement your learning through AI, that's great. Do not have AI do the work for you, because that defeats the purpose. AI will not be able to help you with the exam, which ultimately is going to be the litmus by which you're judged in this course. So even though you can use AI in a lot of different ways to help you with this course, you do need to be conscientious about its use, and you do need to be consistent about it. As far as the policy is pretty much stated out there, but I am a wholehearted advocate. If you've got ChatGPT subscription, or you all have access to Copilot through Truman, you should take advantage of that because you will learn a lot. It does have limitations, as we're going to talk about next Wednesday. There's some of them are very, very funny limitations, all right? But there's some interesting stuff that we can learn by utilizing AI. If you've got disability or access requirements, please let me know. You can also reach out to the student of disability. Extra credit. I do not give piecemeal extra credit assignments. So if you come to the end of the semester and are short some points, you can't tell me, can I get an extra credit assignment so I can get to the next grade? My answer will be no. I give 1 extra credit assignment usually, sometimes more. I will tell you right now, there's one that's definite that you can keep on your calendars. For those of you who are accounting and related majors, they've got the welcome, the Meet the Firms coming up. I think it's in a couple of weeks. Meet the Firms that will be out there on a Friday. If you are in the major that is going to have Meet the Firms out there, going to that, attending that will be sufficient to get extra credit, because I think it's really important to do that. If you are not in a major that's out there, or you can't pay attendance for some reason, there's also a career expo that will be taking place in later September. If you go to the career.truman.edu site, they actually have information on Career and Expo Week. So our Career and Grad Week, Career and Grad Expo, whatever it's called. They have the career affair. You can also attend that, either or. By the way, if you attend both, you don't get double extra credit. It's just you would get 5 points for attending one. If you attend both, good for you. Okay, I think that's a great idea because you're going to meet a lot of interesting people and develop your networks. But I'm only giving you credit for attending. All right, that's the extra credit assignment. Course conduct. You may have noticed that I talk really quickly. If you need to slow down or repeat something, don't be bashful. Raise your hand and say, "Can you repeat that, Dr. Barnes?" I get really, really fast when I get excited. Okay, and I apologize for that. I'm actually a lot better than I used to be. If you go back like 5 years ago, basically people just zoned out because I was talking so quickly. So I'm a little bit better than I used to be, but when I get excited about something, I start talking really, really quickly. It's like, you ever watch the Beavis and Butthead cartoon? You know, it's like, yeah, my cornholio when I get on that. It's like, yeah, so it's really, really silly. If you, so by the way, I do joke around a lot in class, but I do expect you to be professional. You can't have fun and still be professional. That means that you should come to class prepared to work and prepared to listen and engage. In emails, I am wholly professional, not because I think email should be professional, but because you will be expected to write professional emails when you get into your career. So you do need to start out, say, Dr. Barnes or Professor Barnes, or you can call me Michael if you really want to. No student ever has. All right. You can't call me Mr. Barnes. Okay. That's my dad. All right. But that's the reason I went to PhD school for 5 years to get that doctor. Okay. Yeah. So just make sure you start out, write good, clean, clear sentences, and make sure you have a sign off at the end, regards, best wishes, whatever it is, just to get you in the habit of communicating this way. As far as this course goes, keep in mind that it's for the entire semester. I know that it's very, very easy to lose focus for maybe a week or two, and I do grade you on 15 weeks, not 14 or 13 weeks. So I would like you to be consistent over the course of the semester. I know I don't have much time left. I do want to talk a little bit about where we're going from here and what you can get in Brightspace. All right, so we're going to start our first chapter on Wednesday. Then on Friday, we're going to have what's called the Microsoft Excel quiz. These are some questions from an online quiz. I'm not going to do the entire quiz because some of the questions are bad. But we're just going to talk about what your knowledge is and see where you're at. This is not graded, by the way. This is just a fun activity to kind of get us prepped for Microsoft Excel. Next week, we're going to do our chapter 2. We're going to have an AI activity on Wednesday, which is basically we're going to log into some AI tools and we're going to do some queries to see what it can and cannot do. And then we'll do our first Excel in class on next Friday, as well as the first homework assignment will be due on next Friday. As far as Brightspace goes, I have most of the materials for the course already. I shouldn't say most. I have all the materials for the course. No, that's not true. I'm still working on the AI stuff. So I have 99% of the materials. And I've only uploaded the first 4 weeks. I will be ahead of everybody by several weeks, so you can look at it. But it's in the content folder. You can kind of see the way I've set things up. We've got course materials over here, which includes the syllabus, as well as the oral presentation rubric and guidelines. I will also start posting information about the presentation, the groups, and the topics as we get closer to that. Exam presentation, this is the stuff that you need to know for the exam. You currently have access to the study guides and the practice exams. The keys will be available after we review them in class. So we'll have an exam review, and then you'll be able to look at the answers. And then your regular week-to-week assignments are listed here. I'm doing this on a week-to-week basis as I got some really great feedback from students last year who wanted to have better organization in Brightspace. So every single week, you should be able to click on week, whatever that week is, and see what we're doing for that week. And it will give you the dates of when things are due and what you should be prepared for. So for this week, you can see beginning of semester questionnaire that's due on Friday. And then on Wednesday, we'll be talking about chapter 1. You don't need to worry about the Microsoft Excel quiz. I'll give you that information on Friday. But we'll be consistently going through that. And I will be updating that on a periodic basis. Like I said, I hope to be 4 weeks ahead at every point in the semester, so we're never too far behind. All right. And with that, are there any questions or anything confusing? Anybody want to know about UML diagrams right now? I can give you a 1-minute brief on UML diagrams. Yes, that'd be great. No, stay away. Yeah. If you have any questions or concerns, feel free to email me. Otherwise, I will see everybody on Wednesday. Have a great day.